What's up? What's up? This is another episode of the Eagles Elite Podcast. So we're just coming to you live, man. Always hashtag being elite. Talking a little Philadelphia Eagles. You see, I'm doing the kind of background fade thing today. Not sure what's happening, but it's all good. When you're live, things happen. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are here to discuss the once and future NFL champions, the reigning and defending NFC champion, Philadelphia Eagles. We're into the off season. Always, we hit you with some breaking news and different stuff, but we also want to go ahead and recap a wonderful season for the Eagles with you guys, our community. So, in order to do that, what are we going to do? We're going to recap every game for you, one game at a time. Thoughts on plays that stood out to us, stats, all those good things. It's kind of what we're able to do in the off season because there's not as much happening, right? And also, we deep into it, the top 10. So let's get into it. And I'm joined by my co-host Wyatt. What's up, man?
Not too much, man. Happy to be here talking about Eagles as always. Not too much has happened. It's been quiet in Philly. So that we're going to be talking about the first game of last season. And we also have that top 10 coming up here to talk about. So even though there's not much as far as news, there's still a lot to talk about in Eagles Nation.
There always is. There always is, sir. And before we get that popping, it's time to get the juices flowing.
The kick is away, and the kick it's good! And the Eagles win!
It's hard to come to South Philadelphia and leave here with the win. You just don't come to Philadelphia and leave here with the win.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
And our first comment of the evening from Miss Philly. Philly, what's going on? Philly.
What's up, Philly?
Glad you're watching along with us. So, Wyatt, of course, man, we're talking about banging back through last season, getting things going. And, of course, we start like we always do, man. It's always a little something happening in the world of the Eagles, man. So what do we got for breaking news today?
Yeah, the only real thing that's happened over the course of the week here is we have signed former Saints defensive tackle Contavious Street. Apparently, on 518 snaps last season, he had 6 sacks. I believe he had some injury issues before that. I'm not too much. I don't have too much knowledge on him. That's just what I saw from the initial report. Seems like a decent depth piece because we talked about past couple weeks. We need some depth there on the defensive line as far as defensive tackle. So, that's just another probably camp body. See what he can do in camp or whatever. Maybe he'll make the team, maybe not. Who knows?
Absolutely. We are being joined by
Eagles Diva.
the Eagles Diva.
What's going on, fam?
It's happening.
Can't call it. So we were just, talking a little breaking news. We had the signing of the defensive tackle from the Saints. I think he'll stick around. Right, he'll probably be a piece of the rotation. We do have a lot of depth that we need to replace. So I definitely feel like he's a guy, from what I read up on him, that can do that if he can stay healthy. But that's like 95% of the NFL. So as long as he stay healthy, I think he'll get some snaps. But again, as you so eloquently put it, you always have that issue of if he gets outplayed in training camp, what happens? You got to go to the guy that's playing the best. So we'll see how everything plays out. But I'm pretty confident we're going to want to keep like 8 or so defensive linemen like we did last year. So I always feel more confident that guys that we bring in will make that position versus some of the other ones. So we'll see what happens, though, because like you said, it could get outplayed and not even be a part of the team. So it won't matter.
Yeah, true. But that's really it's the breaking news I had. Not too much happening in Philly this week. I mean, there's just rumors going around as of right now. Like I saw a rumor about how. I mean, I don't know how anybody would really know this unless there's like a leak within the organization. But I guess they're close to a deal with Jalen Hurts, and they're saying it could be like a long-term type of deal, like we talked about, similar like a Pat Mahomes. Apparently, Jalen, from what they're saying, is working with Howie to try to have as much flexibility through each season. So it seems like he's trying to work with Howie on trying to create like a somewhat team-friendly deal.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I kind of take those rumors with a grain of salt, right? Because
Yeah, you have to.
you
You
kind of
have
want to
to.
see when a deal's signed. Then once we get pen and paper, and we see how much we're going to get reamed for this contract, then we'll kind of know. But I mean, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's going to be big money, so
Yeah, I mean, you see projections and everything, but I mean, unless there's someone that works close to Howie, I don't know how anybody is really going to know that kind of information.
that's a very valid point. Very valid point. So, no, we discussed. We're going to talk about the season one recap as well as our top 10 safeties. But before we get to that, for the preseason, for last off season, um, Eagles Diva, I'll start with you. But anything that kind of came out in your mind, or you thought about, you might want to just talk about, put a bow on everything from last preseason and last off season.
I mean, I don't pretty much too much pay attention to the preseason because that's everybody fighting for a job. I mean, besides as far as the regular season, just a good season that we had and how we were able to all come together and work together by adding new pieces has never been there, especially in the middle of the season. And the way that it turned out, even though we didn't get that ring, just the success that we had last year was just a major thing for me.
Yeah, real quick, Philly points out that Nick Sirianni threw out the first pitch of the Phillies home opener. Yeah, I did hear about that as well. Of course, a lot of Eagles chances, everything when he did do that. So big up to Nick. Get a little bit of love in the city, of brotherly love. Win a Super Bowl, you'll be back to do it next year.
Hopefully.
All right, and what about you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, like Diva said, I mean, it's just everybody kind of fighting for a job. I mean, as far as what the coaching staff, anybody tries to do is they seem like they try more than anybody to try to keep these players healthy. So they kind of take a little bit stricter precautions as far as like practices and even through preseason games. So, I mean, didn't really see too much of them starters. So I don't really, put a lot into the preseason games. I know people were kind of, blowing out of proportion because we got blown out by like the Dolphins, I think, at one point, and people were already worried before it's going into the season. But I mean, you saw how the season turned out, so that kind of proves you can't put much stock in preseason games. But I mean, Howie was still adding to the roster still at that point too. I mean, as we're gonna see, talking about the first game of week one, there's going to be some things that are going to be a kind of an issue for that first half of the season that they kind of had to tweak the roster spots a little bit, maybe add some pieces to kind of figure some stuff out.
Yeah, for me, for the last offseason, a lot of great additions, great moves in the draft. Uh, we were set up by Howie to be in a position to go where we did, which is to the Super Bowl, right? There's a lot of great things that happened. The trade for CJ as well as signing James Bradbury, among many other deals that we did. The linebackers that we brought in, the linebackers we already had, drafting Blankenship as well as N'Kobe Dean and other guys. So a lot of great things, happened in the offseason. They put in the work. They developed as a team. And by the time we got, probably about week 4 or 5, we kind of started to see them kind of cruising in that setup that they had, the mentality, everybody kind of understanding where to be, what to do, who they are. And it just kind of took off. And, it was great to see. Obviously, the outcome wasn't what we wanted it to be, but the foundation was built. And I think a lot of those foundational pieces are still here. Some of them are gone, of course. A lot of them are gone. But honestly, what we lost, a lot of it can be replaced. I'm not saying it may be the same talent level, but a lot of it can be replaced. And, I see how we're working on doing that. And that's what you do from year to year. You know, people come, people go. You try to build a team to make a run, but you still try to set it up so that whether that run is successful or not, you still have, pieces and you still have a lot going into the future. And for once, I kind of see us moving in that direction. Let's try to build for now as well as develop for the future. We haven't done that for a while. I've lamented about that several times, but it feels like there's going to be a change. So excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice to have some continuity going forward with a lot of great pieces, a lot of great young pieces too.
Yeah, 100%. And let's see here. So we'll start with that season recap, week one of the regular season. So this was our game against the Detroit Lions that started out our season. Whichever one of you would like to start, feel free to talk to us about your thoughts, on the game.
You want to go first, Eva? Or you want me to
Go
go
ahead.
first?
Yeah, you
Okay. I mean, I had some notes here from what like I mentioned, kind of alluded to before. A big part of what was causing some issues, especially in this game, was the run defense. Swift was running all over this defense, and even towards the back half of the game, they were just kind of opening that middle of the field up too. The defense was letting a lot of good plays happen from Jared Goff. They did have a couple nice stops. They had a couple sacks on them, but the big play as far as defense was the James Bradbury pick six that happened. I believe it was like the second quarter. I'm not sure. But what we were kind of worried about going into week one, we didn't really start running the ball until about halfway through like the second quarter. That's whenever, Miles started opening up. And then rushing was really what helped win us the game too. I mean, all of our touchdowns really, other than the pick six, came from rushing. I mean, Miles Sanders had a touchdown, Jalen Hurts rushing, Kenny Gainwell, and Boston Scott. I mean, everything was happening. I mean, it was a huge A.J. Brown game, kind of his first game as an Eagle coming out. I mean, he had 155 yards. The biggest disappointment was Devontae Smith in that game, not because of anything he did, but just because there was really no targets for him during that game. There was really no looks for him. I mean, they tried to, just it wasn't in the cards. There was just kind of bad options at that point. But I feel like in that first, I wouldn't say the full first half, Jalen, because they were blitzing so much, it seemed like he was kind of a little, not rattled, but he was kind of looking to run like first. And then he kind of got settled a little bit, finding them reads, and then he started hitting guys wide open, especially A.J. Brown, who I mentioned had a monster game. He was killing it with those slant routes, and that's what he was doing all season long. But it was definitely way closer than I wanted it to be, than anybody wanted it to be in the end. But I mean, it should have been a blowout, but the defense kind of let up. That was that Jonathan Gannon scheme.
That's exactly what I was about to start with.
Have at it.
Because defense was just, for one, I don't know why we played 2 and 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards off a player, and just not tackling. I've seen a lot of people just going past, not tackling at all, not even wrapping up. You got to always wrap up. Most definitely wrap up. But as far as the O-line went, we lagged a little bit, but then we finally got together. Miles was, once we finally decided to use the run game, Miles was able to get open. And so I think that's what helped us, was able to win that game. And then the defense finally tightened back up at the end. So that was a big reason why we won as well. So hopefully we'll have to worry about that this year.
Hopefully not.
For me, the stats say a lot. Jalen Hurts, no touchdowns through the air, 18 of 32, 243 yards. We've alluded to the running game. Sanders had 7.4 yards average, 13 carries for 96 yards and a rushing touchdown. Hurts had 17 carries for 90 yards. So the person with the most carries in the game running the ball was your quarterback. That's not what we really want. He did have a rushing touchdown as well. He averaged 5.3 yards. Gainwell had 5 for 20. Scott had 4 for 10. Both of those guys scored as well. We actually ended up getting 4 touchdowns, all of them by the 3 running backs and Jalen Hurts, all rushing. So that was interesting. We talked about A.J. Brown, the 10 for 155. We talked about it when the game happened. One of the things I was mentioning is a lot of people were concerned Devontae Smith didn't have any receptions, didn't have any yards.
Mhm.
But, like I was saying, if you go back and look the year before that, we played Detroit, and Devontae really kind of was disrespectful, like just how great he played against them. So I think they went in saying he's not going to beat us. And as I did talk about last offseason, when you've got two real number one receivers and you decide to take one away, the other guy gets to eat. And AJ Brown definitely ate. And we'll go throughout the season. We'll see there was games where it was just the opposite, right? So it just happens. It's part of having two really great receivers. People game plan for who they feel like is going to be the one that's going to, kind of take them out of the game. And, that's just kind of something we'll have to get used to the next at least 3 or so years, having those two number one guys. But even when you look, at Detroit stats for the game, man, I mean, they lost by 3 points. So clearly they had great stats as well. DeAndre Smith averaged almost 10 yards to carry on us, 15 carries, 144 yards, 9.6 carries, right? And he scored a touchdown. Jared Goff threw for a touchdown, threw for 2 touchdowns and had an interception. Jamal Williams had 11 carries for 28 yards. Jared Goff even had 2 carries for 9 yards. So, I
Got
mean,
that
we
3rd and
just,
7 conversion.
yep, you
Ridiculous.
just have to do a better job of that. Receiving rise, they spread the ball around. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8 receptions, 64 yards and a touchdown. DJ Chark had 4 for 52 and a touchdown. Hawkinson had 4 for 38. Swift had 3 for 31. Reynolds had 1 for 28. And then Jamal Williams had 1 for 2. So they kind of spread the ball around. Defense, they had some great plays that they made individually, stops, you know. But once we integrated the running game as well, it did really feel like it became a game that Philadelphia should have, won. And we did do that. Shouldn't have made it as close as we did, but hey, sometimes it happens. And then back to Philly, receiving AJ Brown with 10 for 155, of course. Next closest receivers, Goddard with 3 for 60. Gainwell 2 for 12. Sanders 2 for 9. Pascal 1 for 7. So once we got the running game going, we kind of really got away from passing the ball too much. Not upset with that. We'll see that theme in certain situations throughout this season as we go back and talk about the games. But a question I want to ask you both. What do you feel like we could have done differently in this game to have a more comfortable, win against Detroit?
Well, first of all, the defense would have showed up the whole time. I felt like we would have had a little bit of comfortability. I mean, you got to think about it. Jared Goff was able to get off, and then the running game was we didn't stop the running game at all, and there was barely any pass rush until maybe second half. They decided to pick it up, and then on the O line, of course, them having Jalen run the ball a lot and not setting up plays for your wide receivers, your tight ends, was a big. I think that's another reason why it wasn't comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Billy
Yeah, pretty much
says run the ball.
run the ball. But it seemed like they were trying to run the ball in some of the worst situations too. Like they were running on 3rd and long sometimes. It's like, what are you doing? And I mean, they did that through the course of the season too, and I just still didn't understand it. But I mean, exactly what Diva said, it was all in the defense for the most part. I mean, the offense did get stopped a couple times, but I mean, they ended up putting up 40 points, right? Close to 40 points, 38. So if your offense get up 38 points, your defense should be able to help you win that game, and they just weren't able to do it.
I think ball control by the offense could have been better. Taking the time. For instance, when you're watching games and you see first down, you got your play clock. You got 40 seconds. We're hiking the ball at 30 seconds. We're hiking the ball at 25 seconds. Take the time, run the clock down a little bit, relax, run the ball, make the right reads, run your RPO, work through your plays, work through your progressions. I think that we did. I saw a lot of hustle, a lot of let's try to get the ball, let's try to score, because Detroit, especially at the beginning of the season, they were struggling defensively as well. So they weren't stopping us. So we were just saying, we're just going to take everything they give us and we're just going to go down the field as quickly as we can and score. That's fine sometimes, but then you've got a defense as well. So I think as we went through the season, I did see that kind of changed some as far as just clock management. I felt like as the season progressed, Jalen got a little bit more control of the offense as far as the nuances of everything, paying attention to the clock, bleeding it down some. I think a lot of the games we started in the second half, that was kind of our specialty, right? We put up a bunch of points in the second quarter, maybe score in the first, maybe don't, maybe score again in the third, and then we just go into ball control the whole fourth. But I feel like from a perspective of players, understanding those situations, taking a couple of extra seconds to get set, giving the defense a little bit more of a breather is something that we worked on. But first game of the season, and defensively, that was a hot mess. It honestly was. Like this was a game we won because of the offense. That was a hot mess. The defense wasn't terrible. We did have the pick six, but just overall, they just weren't ready to play together yet. And you can't really get that timing down and everything if you don't have the opportunity to actually play together. And nobody believes in playing in the preseason, so this was kind of like preseason week 4.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I feel like a lot of this had to do because it was also week 1. It was the first time everybody really got to play together for a whole game. So I mean, everybody. That's why it's like halfway through there. At least the offense was trying to get it like actually clicking at that point. It's just the early warning signs of Gannon were there even in week 1.
Absolutely. So Rod Uncensored is back this week. What's up, Rod?
Here he is.
Yes, sir. And then Philly Eats hits us with the Diva, as well as the High Alyssa, which is directed towards Philly. So appreciate you guys hopping in with us tonight as well. Just recapping our week 1 game last season against the Detroit Lions, and then we're going to do our top 10 safeties here in a couple of minutes as well. So Eagles, Diva, any other thoughts you had on game 1 last season?
Not at all.
Man, it's the one thing that hurt the most was seeing the Jared Goff 3 and 7 like run. And you saw how slow that he was running. Looked like Tom Brady, just like I don't know. It was ridiculous, and that's kind of a pattern too. Is letting these like non-athletic QBs get first downs on us easily just by running. It's like it doesn't matter. There's just no QB spy at all, it seems, and because they're playing so far back, it doesn't help as well.
Correct. And then also, just getting to know each other. I mean, we saw the seeds of what happened to us in the Super Bowl in this game, right? We saw the seeds of some bad play calling, getting away from the run. We saw the seeds of the defense and just what was being called. We'll go ahead and get a troll message here out the way. Devin McCourty, one I don't know where that comes into play. And then Philly says, "What's up, Philly Eats?" But yeah, this was a big game for us though, because I felt like it was a game we needed to win, right? Not because, well, you can't go undefeated or you can't be 5-0 if you don't win the first game. So I feel like this is a game Philly really needed to have. We were able to pull it out. It was a nail biter. It was one of those you kind of on your seat the whole game because, like I said, you knew the other team couldn't get it done either, right? Nobody played defense. We just did a little bit better on offense. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Philly hits up, "What's up, Philly Eats?" Philly Eats says, "I'm working Saturday at Wawa." Okay. And then Philly Eats says, "What do we think about these drafts?" So I'll let you guys answer. I'll just quickly say this. For me, I don't care about any of that until the real draft happens. I don't care about the mock drafts. I don't care about who the officials and professionals and insiders think we're going to pick. Talk to me when the draft's happening after the draft, once the picks are made, because until then, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't have too much knowledge of like all these college players. All I know is just from like all these different reports, different articles, or like whoever's visiting with the Eagles and whatnot. I mean, all I know is we're probably not drafting a running back in the first round like everybody like wants us to. But that's just not how Howie is. I could see us taking like a defensive tackle or something.
First of all, we just have to see because Howie doesn't have a good track record in the draft. So with us, it's like kind of a wait and see type thing with him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Philly asks, are we doing a draft episode? So Philly, what's going to happen is we are going to be doing a draft episode with the play callers, other show. So we're going to do a draft special. If Wyatt and Eagles Diva are available, they can definitely hop on for any part
Yeah.
or all of the draft for the first round. So you'll definitely be getting draft content for sure.
Yeah, I'll
And
be there.
then Travis, what's going on, man? Appreciate you hopping on. He wants Nolan or Murphy. He says that's the A+ moves for us. Um, so for me, Travis, I feel what you're saying. I feel where you're coming from, but I'll say this: one of the reasons why I like to wait is because there's always one or two people that you believe are going to be there around 10 that are not there. There's always
Mhm.
a few people that you believe are going to be there later in the draft or are going to be there that aren't there, and a few people that you don't think will be there that are. So it all just depends on what's wanted, what's there, what we need, and how it fits together. And I feel like it will for us, but I also just, I'm big on show me what you get because, like Eagles Diva said, Howie's kind of got us a couple of times. So once you get me a couple of times, I'm kind of
Mm.
like, man, show me what you got. We'll see
And it's
when
just
we see.
unpredictable. Like
Yeah.
you never know if we could trade up or trade back or make a trade for a player or something like that would happen with AJ Brown last year. Like you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'd prefer if I could have my way, I would prefer to drip to move back a couple of spots and maybe get another second round of next year or something like that for doing so. I would be comfortable going anywhere from 11 to 15. Um, I don't want to trade with the Commanders. I don't want to go to 16. I think the Commanders are 16, so I don't want to trade with any teams, in a division. But
Yeah.
I feel comfortable going back to 15 and picking up another pick or maybe an asset as part of that package. But if we draft that, man, we just got to get the best player available for the needs that we have. Nolan or Murphy are good options. There's several other options as well. I mean, I myself wouldn't mind going with the wide receiver from Ohio State. I wouldn't mind drafting him at 10 and just completely solidify a monster threesome at wide receiver.
Okay.
But there's so many different moves you can make, right?
Yeah. Just don't overthink it. That's all they have
Yeah.
to do. Just don't overthink it.
See what's there. Realize what you're not going to have an opportunity to get. So, we'll see what happens. And Travis makes a great point. Next year we have 12 picks too. And, Howie will trade some stuff to get people.
Yeah. I don't think
We'll
Howie's
see,
done
man.
yet.
He's
As far
definitely
as
not done.
not just the
Definitely not done.
draft, but I'm saying like as far as like scooping players, I don't think he's done yet. Especially like they had I saw the report today of like all the teams like cap situation as of right now, and we're like number 4 as far as like the most. I think
Yeah,
they
because
got
we
like
got
19 mil right now to work with.
yeah, it's roughly 20. It's going to take about 10 roughly for our signing. So we have another, about 9, 10 million
Hmm.
that we can spend as well. So, hey, I'm with it. Like, whatever moves we can make to make the team better, that's what we're all about. Because, I mean, we want to get further than we did last year. We have some subtractions, make the right additions, and let's get it back there. It's my
Yes,
thought
sir.
on that.
It's an exciting time. I can't wait for the draft. I'm always excited to watch it. Just because you never know what's going to happen. It's just the unpredictability of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we'd love to hear your picks as well for this. But
I think this is where the Devin McCourty thing was coming from.
uh, well, the problem is Devin McCourty can't be a top Eagle safety because he never played for the Eagles. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely not.
I think that's where that came from.
Yeah, that's definitely not. It's pretty wild. All right, so I went first last week. So Eagles, Diva, or Wyatt, which one of you guys are going to set it off with your number 10 Eagles best safety of all time?
I guess I can start it off. So, give me a list. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
My number 10 would be Michael Lewis.
Okay.
Michael Lewis. Okay. My number 10 was Ray Ellis. Played 1981 through 1985.
He was my number 10 as well. 5 seasons, 73 games, 12 interceptions. He took over for Randy Logan once his career ended. But one of the reasons I put him there was the big hit that he put on Tony Dorsett in the 1984 season.
Knocked them out.
Yeah, and not because I mean, you don't want anybody to be hurt, but like when you come in, you say I'm laying wood, right? You're laying wood on Tony Dorsett, like yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a theme with a lot of these safeties going to be talking about is these hard hitters, these bruiser types.
Yeah. All right, Eagles Diva, who you got at number 9?
Andrew Waters.
Okay. All right.
I got Michael Lewis at number 9. Played for 02 to 06. A pretty short career with us, but I mean he was pretty solid though.
Very solid.
Yeah.
So
he had like a season-ending or like a career-ending injury, right?
Mm-hmm. So I went the same path but different guy. I went Damon Moore. He played from 1999 to 2001. He looked like a star until the ACL back in the 2001 championship game, and that pretty much ended his career. 5 postseason games, he had 3 interceptions, tied for the most in team history. He had 2 picks against Brad Johnson in our playoff win against them, 31-9. One of the picks went for a 59-yard touchdown. He also had an interception in the playoff win in Chicago that we won 33-19. He made a huge play against the Giants in the game we was hurt. They ran a lateral trick play, and Dixon, you remember Rod Dixon was on 76-yard run that they would have taken the lead. Moore got all the way across the field and got to him and tripped him up at the 4 to stop them from scoring, which essentially pretty much saved that game for us. But yeah, a lot of these guys, especially early on, shorter careers, but they had the ability. It's just injuries. And we were talking about early in the 2000s. And for those of you who may not be aware, at that point in time, you tore ACL, you're done. It wasn't tear ACL, sit out for a year, it takes another year to come back, and then you play. 1999, 2001, 2005, you tear your ACL, your career's done. But yeah, so that's what I had there. All right, Diva, what you got at 8?
At 8, I have Quentin Mickle.
All right, Quentin Mickle. Yep. Nice.
My number 8, I had Damon Moore as well. I mean, he was a big play machine.
Okay, cool. So I had Michael Lewis, who we've already heard his name a couple of times, at number 8. He played 5 seasons of stuff. He was drafted in the 2nd round out of Colorado. I'm always like the guys that are not in the 1st round that end up being a really good player for you. He was on the 2004 Super Bowl team. He was known as a hitter. Like, he hit you. If you got the ball, you got wood if Michael Lewis was around you. He had 9 interceptions in his 76 games with us, but he had 394 tackles, and 325 of them were solo tackles. He was a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro in 2004 when we won the Super Bowl. He had 88 tackles and 1 interception that year. So, man, if we could have had him for some more years, man, it would have been nice. But hey, like I said, injuries were a different monster back in the day.
For sure.
All right, and Diva, who you got number 7?
I had Damian Moore at number 7.
Okay, so you had him a little bit higher. Okay.
Yep. My number 7 was Quentin Mickle, who was already mentioned. He was part of that, he played alongside like Brian Dawkins, Sheldon Brown, and Asante Samuel, part of the Super Bowl squad. He did have an All-Pro, and I think he made the Pro Bowl once or twice with us as well. He had 2 All-Pros, 1 Pro Bowl with us. But a very solid player on, one of the top defenses we've ever had.
Yo, and I agree with Travis here. Travis says that GJ's line press conference, he looked sad. He did, man. I know you weren't with us last week, Travis, so we kind of touched on it. The thing is, man, when you have the opportunity, you make the move. You don't wait for people to hold things up for you. If GJ would have took the contract that was offered, he would have been an Eagle, and we probably would have had Darius Slay.
His agent screwed him.
but his agent and him, because I always believe that no matter what your agent does, I believe your agent is an extension of you. So I believe his agent went out with him and they overvalued themselves. And, the market turned around and said, nah, we're not going to do that, player. We're not going to do that. And, that's why he's not here. He had the
Yeah.
chance. I mean, he made what he thought was the best business decision for him, and the Eagles moved in another direction. They told him they were going to move in another direction. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, I also had Mike Hill at number 7.
Okay. Number 6.
Yep, because he was the guy that after Dawkins retired, that he was counting on to stop the long gains. So he kind of stepped into a big role for the team.
Yeah.
He made second team All Pro in 2008 and 2010. Well, I know you were talking about that. And he made the Pro Bowl in 2009. It's funny because he played 8 years, had 10 interceptions and 448 tackles. So he was, it's good player for sure.
Yeah, and they were like the back half of like the last couple years with us. Like he had those great seasons.
Yep. All right, Eagles Diva, who do you have at number 6?
Randy Logan.
Not a bad pick at all. Not a bad pick. All right, why do you got?
I had Andre Waters at number 6.
I had
He was an undrafted free agent. Yeah, he played from 1984 to 1993. He's part of that old school Buddy Ryan defense, the gangrene defense in 1991.
Yep, they called him Dirty Waters.
Because he had like a ton of violent hits. Like he made some big hits. Like we talked about before, some of these guys were beasts out there on the field.
So he went to Cheney State, right? And think about this: in '84, when he wasn't drafted, that was when the draft was 12 rounds.
Jeez.
So 12 rounds and nobody picked this dude. And he was a Buddy Ryan's favorite because he, of course, hard-nosed, big hits, and he had an engine that was always on go.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 15 career interceptions too. And it's big for me because I know you had him earlier, Eagles. I didn't say anything because I know he was going to be on my list later. He wasn't drafted, right? So you think about the value that you got for a guy that you just signed off the street after the draft. And he went on to have the kind of career that Andre Waters had. Oh, Dirty Waters himself. All right, Diva, who you got at 5?
That's Hopkins.
Okay. All right.
My number 5 here was Randy Logan. Played 73 to 83. He had like 23 interceptions with us, made Pro Bowl twice. And he also, he only missed one game in his whole career, which is crazy for that time. I mean, just in football in general, but especially for that time. He played 159 consecutive games, which is nuts.
Yep, 23 interceptions, 10th in team history. I actually had him at 5 as well. Twice he made the Pro Bowl. He was second to Harold Carmichael and John Dorenbos, who both had 162 in consecutive games played in team history. So, yeah, definitely a big part of the team. All right, Eagles Diva, who you got at 4?
Malcolm Jenkins.
I do as well.
I did too.
Yeah.
I have Malcolm Jenkins at number 4. He was one of my favorite Eagles during that Super Bowl run, man. I mean, not just that Super Bowl run, but I'm saying like all the years he was here, those 6 years, which looking back, it doesn't feel like 6 years that he was here with us. It feels way shorter than that. But I mean, he had like 11 interceptions, made a huge impact as a leader with the defense and a huge impact off the field as well in the community in Philly.
Yeah. He was a big leader, like you said, on and off the field of the defense and just the team in general. He was a big part of us winning the Super Bowl's leadership.
That huge hit on Brandon Cooks took him out.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
That was a beast of a hit.
We've had some good defensive leaders. I mean, because he basically came in after B-Dog, and we never thought we would get another B-Dog.
Yep. And then the thing about Jenkins is 3 Pro Bowls, 11 interceptions in 96 games, and scored 4 touchdowns, and just as an Eagle. We're not talking about anything he did anywhere else. That's just as an Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
So
He didn't miss very many games either.
Yeah,
Like, he was out there.
That's crazy to me, man. But nothing but love for Malcolm Jenkins.
Hmm.
Right, Deepa, who you got at 3?
I have um dang, hold on, I lost my place.
Travis, he's up there, buddy. He's definitely up there.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Why you can go. Find where I was at.
Number 3, I had old Wes Hopkins. And number 3, he played from 83 and 93, 2 Pro Bowls, 2 All Pros. What else? I had a list here of stuff. He had like 30 interceptions, with the 5th most Eagles history. He spent his entire career in Philly, didn't go anywhere else. But yeah, I mean, he was very solid for us.
That's who I actually had. Was
Yeah, he's part of like the Bird Gang Green defense in like 91. They like finished first in run, first in pass, and first in total defense.
Buddy Ryan's crazy
Yeah.
too.
You hear me? It was a hitter.
Yeah, so at 3, I had Bill Bradley, little throwback. He's the 3rd best safety on this list. I gotta say. He had 34 interceptions, tying in with Eric Allen and Dawkins for most of team history. Made the Pro Bowl 3 consecutive years from 71 to 73. Was an all first team pro twice. Made the Pro Bowl 3 straight times during that time frame as well. Yeah. Different era, tough guys. Led the NFL in interceptions in 71 with 11 and 72 with 9. I'm going to throw that in there as well. But those guys played. So when you think about getting 11 interceptions and 9 interceptions back in the 70s, you got to understand, like, that's hardcore football, right? That's hardcore football. That's not what we play. That's not what we see today. That's not what we saw like in the 80s and 90s. That was hardcore football. That's when dudes used to slice their finger off and keep playing. That's that kind of mentality. So yeah, that's what we had back in the day.
That's when you had concussions and nobody knew you had a concussion and you couldn't see nothing but still out there playing.
That's when you didn't tell anybody. You didn't care.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And then all right, Eagles Diva, who's your number 2?
I had Bill Bradley at number 2.
Same as me. I had Bill Bradley as well. And I'm like 100% certain we got all the same number 1.
Oh yeah.
I have Wes Hopkins as number 2, so
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you got flipped on that one.
Yeah, and he passed away in 2018 at 57. Jeffrey Lurie, when he passed away, said Wes Hopkins is one of the best safeties in the history of the franchise. Played a major role in the team's success during his time in Philly. Was well respected among his teammates and coaches, not only because of the way he played the game and what he was able to accomplish on the field, but also because of the way he carried himself, the type of leader he was. So very important for me, that particular statement, because I think that's one of the things that we talk about from safeties. Like we talk about, and not to dig on it, but CJ. He's a guy that just didn't seem to have that piece, right? The game on the field, phenomenal. But that leadership, that steady hand, that expectation that we have from our best safety to kind of be one of the leaders on defense and one of the leaders on the team, it just didn't seem like he had that specific piece, right? And that's why I miss the talent. But get a guy in here that's going to be a leader like Edmonds, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make. Yeah, and we all have to have the same number 1. Like if we don't have the same number 1, we got to have a talk offline with somebody. Right?
The old Weapon X himself, man, Brian Dawkins, one of, if not the greatest Eagle that has ever done it.
Agreed.
And like the greatest safety that has ever played, pretty much.
And man, just a leader, bro. Like a great man off the field, but a monster.
Yeah,
on the field, popular. He come out doing the angry things and just yelling and just the black face paint. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the guys who was doing that early on, like just
crawling.
Yeah, crawling, just everything, man. Everything. I mean, what can you say about it?
Man, if you watch you could feel the hits. You could hear the hits on TV that he was laying down.
Wood was laid.
Yeah.
On a daily basis.
He was a monster.
He had 32 forced fumbles while his time with the Eagles. the most in team history. 34 interceptions, tied for the team leading team history. 21 sacks, the most from the secondary in team history.
Jeez.
9 Pro Bowls, 5 All Pros. Inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2018. If he was not a first ballot Hall of Famer, he should have been. He wasn't, but I mean, this guy. This was an Eagle. Second most games played in team history, 183, only behind David Akers. Unfortunately, the one blemish that I feel like the organization had with him was they let him go to Denver and finish his career.
Yeah, they let him walk.
There's no way that Brian Dawkins should have played with any other uniform in his NFL career.
Nah.
Nope, never.
Never.
And they loved him in Denver too. I mean, you're gonna love him wherever he goes, right? Because the kind of guy he is.
Mm-hmm.
Retired his jersey in 2012. I mean, hey, we could go on for another 30 minutes just about Brian Dawkins, right? Without even talking about anything
Wear
else.
a jersey. That's why I wore a jersey tonight, man.
That guy, man, phenomenal. It's so many, other great safeties and players, and we're gonna get to a lot of those, throughout this as well. But man, just so many wonderful Eagles players and everything. So Rod Uncensored is back. He says Brian Dawkins better be number one.
Yeah.
Of course, Brian Dawkins is number one. Of course.
And what's great about it too is it seems like there was no bad blood as far as letting him go, because since he retired and everything, he's been a constant with the Eagle organization. Like he's always either consulting or he's at games or he's always doing something within the organization still. He's still pretty present within the Eagles organization.
Definitely.
Yes.
Man. Just a lot of love for that individual, man.
Yeah.
He was at a time where I really was watching football. I was old enough to really focus on it and just, play and watch. And he was one of those guys during that time that made you just be like, this guy is sick.
He's inspiring as hell too, especially stuff that he does now, like going on these tours and these little speaking tours and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a great dude.
It was like a dichotomy of a person. On the field, he's a wild, rabid Wolverine. Off it, he's just a mild mannered, humble guy. It's great, man. It was just wonderful to see.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful.
One of the greatest to ever do it.
He definitely was. And man, when you think about all this stuff, when you think about his top 10 list, man, who's number one? I mean, it's real clear.
But the cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah.
And the cream definitely was Brian Dawkins. No disrespect to the other guys, but the cream was definitely Brian Dawkins. So glad that got a chance to see him play. He was part of the organization, and that he's still part of the organization, along with Harold Carmichael and some of our other better players like Seth Joyner and guys. They're still part of the organization. In some aspect, and that's important because you got that history there that you can use to kind of push everything now moving forward. You can kind of push that.
Yeah. And it's very rare to see an all-time great for your team in your lifetime, I feel like. So for us to be able to witness that, it's amazing.
Definitely. All right, guys. So we went through our top 10s. If you guys in the chat agree or disagree, feel free to leave your thoughts. If you have any different guys that you would have put in, definitely throw them up there. Let us see what you would have done as well. So we'll start with you, Wyatt. Any final thoughts?
Nah, man, just here in the next couple of weeks, getting prepared for the draft, like we talked about a little bit ago. Like I said, don't think too much about it. I mean, it is unpredictable, but Howie just needs to listen to the rest of the squad. Don't try to outsmart everybody else.
Yeah, just waiting to see what happens with the draft is really all I can say, because you just don't know about Howie. So just wait and see. We got a few more weeks. So.
Yep, and we'll spend some time going through draft things as well. So don't get it twisted. We'll be, talking about positions that we want. If there's a specific person that you want, or just specific, positions that you want filled, We'll definitely be talking about some of that. But for your draft coverage, playcallsportstalk.com/live. We'll be on there doing a draft day special for sure. So keep your eyes posted, ears open. We'll have more to come. And also, for those who may have missed the announcement previously, in 2 weeks, we have a little step up. We're going to be doing this podcast, and we'll also be on the Shady Sports Network. So there'll just be another avenue for you to be able to see your boys or your lady talk Eagles, do our thing, have a good time. There'll be some changes. They'll be for the best, of course, right? You'll still be here as well, so don't get it twisted. But just, a chance for us to do something different, try to reach a broader audience, do what we came to do, and that's get as many people who love what we love, and that's that green, just to be part of it. So excited about that. More to come, of course, next week. But in 2 weeks, when it happens, you don't have to go anywhere different. You still can see us here. But just know there'll be some changes. It'll be for the best to help the show grow. And also help the network that we're going to be teaming up with for this to grow. So it'll be a plus. Good people there. We're good people. Shouldn't be any problems. And my final thoughts. I'm just excited about the offseason. I'm excited about the going through it, to talking about it, seeing what we're talking about now, how we're feeling when we get to the end of the offseason, whatever that last move, how he makes, whether it's a big move or just sliding somebody in, he's going to do something. There's a lot of big names that have been connected to the Eagles. Also, I read some reports. I actually meant to, but didn't. Did either of you hear about the reports about us signing Ezekiel Elliott?
You talking about the April Fool's Day reports? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was April Fool's.
I didn't see that. No.
I thought that was. And, I wouldn't be opposed to him or somebody else to fill a certain role joining the team. But like we said, a couple of weeks ago, we got this guy named Trey Sermon who could be a bowling ball with feet, but got to kind of, put him on the field.
Yeah.
So I'm good with whatever the team decides. As far as the running back position, just be smart about it. And don't top a lot of this money. Let's save this money for this defense, right? Let's save this extra cap money for the defense. And if we don't make a move, roll on over to next year. We got to pay Hurts anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's really the only other thing we're waiting for is like the draft and that Hurts contract.
Nope. And that late season free agent signing that we're definitely going to have. So
you know what's going to happen.
That's you.
Like a couple weeks before the start of the season or something.
Probably in maybe the middle of the season, like we had to go sign.
Season. Probably one or two of those.
Yeah, we'll probably get a couple of those. I wouldn't mind if we could get Sue to come back. Like I said, I liked what Sue did. Nasty, aggressive, did what needed to be done, and that's all you could really ask. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if there aren't anything else you guys would like to discuss for the evening, a few minutes early, but hey, sometimes you get it done. It doesn't take as long.
Right. All right, y'all.
All right, so with that,
Fly Eagles fly.
Fly Eagles fly. Hashtag be elite.
Be
Make
elite.
sure you come back. Holler at us next week. Tell 2 of your friends and 3 of your enemies, because just because they don't like you doesn't mean they don't like us. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Sir.
Let's go.
The kick is away, and the kick it's good! And the Eagles win!
It's hard to come to South Philadelphia and leave here with the win. You just don't come to Philadelphia and leave here with the win.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin!